Thanks for staying with us. So October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, an annual campaign to raise awareness of this very complex disease. Each year, the individuals, businesses, and communities come together to show their support for the many people affected by breast cancer. Joining us on the show to discuss her own experience with breast cancer is Abimbola Ifidon. Welcome to the show. She's the author of Rescued. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning. Thanks
Good
for
morning.
having me.
Good morning.
So tell us a bit about your story, because every year we discuss breast cancer, but it's really important for us to hear your own perspective and then take it from there.
Yeah, again, thanks for having me. I'm coming to you live from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning here for me.
Sorry. So sorry about that.
So I've been up since about 2, just trying to get ready for this. So yeah. My name is Abimbola Ifidon. I go by Ola. My journey, it's a bit of a unique one because I would say I stumbled on it because I had no symptoms or anything. I just went for a routine check, and there were some irregularities, and then my doctor called for another test in 6 months. And here's the thing I want people to understand, most of the time people would say, in Nigeria, it's like this, but oh, you can have that abroad, the care is good and all that stuff. But what I want to really emphasize here is the empowered patient. Although my doctor mentioned to me that I should come back in another 6 months or a year for the test, but I insisted I was going to have that, even if that meant I was going to pay out of pocket. Now, Canada is slightly different from the US, and each province has their own healthcare policies. So what obtains in Alberta is not what obtains in Ontario and all that. And so here, because of the health system that we have, which presumably people think it's free, but it's not because you pay your taxes for that. There's a constraint, a pressure on the healthcare system. So there's a queue system is what I'm trying to get to here. And so with that queue system, you have to go in and wait until you accept, of course, it's deemed as an extreme emergency, and that's when they take you in. But I insisted that I was going to go in, and if that meant me going out of my province or going out of my city, and if that also meant that I was going to pay out of pocket, that I was going to do that. And so I insisted on that, and I did the test, a follow-up test, and that was when the diagnosis was made. And had I waited, I don't know what would have happened. And so one thing I just want to encourage people about is you have to be an empowered patient. Complacency is not allowed. And also, sometimes people think, oh, because I'm here and the government provides for me, well, I'm going to wait until, when they can get to me. And in some cases, it might be too late. So that has been my own story, my own journey. Like I mentioned, I had no.
When you were diagnosed, was it malignant? How was it? What exactly happened? How did you receive that news?
Well, like I said, after I did the test, I did some ultrasound, some mammograms. So another thing I want to also call out here, which is some of the things that I mentioned in my book, is that I've been doing mammogram year in, year out. And, nothing, because over 45 here in Canada, it's mandatory that you go for mammogram at least once a year. And I've been doing that. And this is where you need to understand your own body physiology. Just as a disclaimer, I'm not a medical professional, but I did a lot of research, having a background in biochemistry. And so you need to understand your own body and your own self. And so when I did all this tests and the mammogram, the ultrasound and all that, over the years, nothing was caught. And that's where it becomes scary, because as women, especially women from Africa, Black women, we tend to have dense breasts. And what that means is that some things are not quite easily visible. And by the time people realize, it might be too late. And so a combination of so many tests, what I call detection tests, is recommended. So things like ultrasound combined with mammogram or some other tests. But again, based on my research and working with, just kind of speaking with my doctors, the one test that is almost conclusive in detecting breast cancer is breast MRI. And that is a test that is very, very expensive. And even in developed countries like Canada and the US, it's not easily accessible to everyone. It's only accessible to a select few. Wow. And if you have to do that, you have to pay out of pocket, or if you're considered a high risk, then they could give you a waiver for that. And so I say that to say that people could do mammogram and all that over the years and might have that underlying, and they may not know, and by the time they're realizing it might be cheap.
Right. Okay, Ola, let me ask you. I must say congratulations on your survivor, because I lost my aunt to breast cancer, and I remember the whole journey when she lived in my house. My house was literally like a hospital. I had to clean her up. It had metastasized so bad that her arm wasn't opening. It was just so bad. But looking at the book you wrote, and you're saying that this book, you wanted to inspire readers and help them build resilience in the face of adversity. How are you able to bring awareness to the barest minimum? I mean, knowing fully well that in this climate in Nigeria, not everybody is interested in a book. Maybe the so educated people will have to read, but the not educated people who are going through this challenge. Because my auntie's husband was saying, no, she was just stung by an ant, and that was it. But at the end of the day, we lost her. So how are you trickling down your awareness to the grassroots?
So from the grassroots, what I try to tell people is to be, to take their own health into their own hands, and, healthy living, healthy eating, and, exercising. Those are things that, you have to do by yourself. Your doctors can't do that for you. And also being empowered. I keep coming back to that empowerment. And the reason for that is, especially when you hear a situation, a diagnosis like that, what comes to the mind of people is, oh, it's a death sentence and everybody's trying to scramble to help you survive, eat this, eat that, and you keep eating everything that you can just to be able to survive. And in some cases, what I observe is that some things are even dangerous for you, even as you go through that journey. Take an example. While I was on treatment, for example, I couldn't drink orange, I couldn't take oranges, I couldn't take vitamin C's and all that stuff because it was contraindicated to my treatment. And as such, it wasn't going to make it effective. So in the midst of that fear, what I try to tell people is, one, understand the type that you have, and then two, approach it in a very systematic, structured way. Don't allow fear drive you to do things that may look on the surface of it as good, but in actual essence, you are killing yourself. So, for example, turmeric, ginger, and all those nice things that we love to eat. Food
spices.
If someone is on chemo, for example, taking those things will not help you. Whilst you're on chemo, you're actually killing yourself. And so education, making sure people are educated about what it is that they need to eat and how they can take care of themselves.
I'll get a few more questions in for you.
Yeah, okay, Ola first, like she said, congratulations on being a survivor. But then I noticed that there's a part of breast cancer that nobody talks about or addresses, and that's breast cancer in kids. And that's because people know it's rare, and people just, most times, you might have a child that has a lump, and then the first thing the doctor says is, no, it cannot be breast cancer. It's automatically ruled out, right? But then, like my sister was born with a benign lump as a baby, that was taken out as a child. And something happened recently to a child, and it was ruled out, and they later found out that she had breast cancer. And it was ruled out because they said it was rare, but then another doctor, a specialist, kept pushing and saying that let's just check. So for parents, even though it's rare, always check. So my question to you is that, does your book also address breast cancer in young children, one, and then secondly, what supports do they have, from the parents, especially from the area of the parents, and then the kid, in terms of that, yeah.
So my book, Rescued, is, the full title is Rescued, a Memoir of Fate and Faith. And in that book, all I talked about is my journey going through this, and some of the things that's helped me to cope. Now, on the surface of it, generally speaking, breast cancer is breast cancer. Now, because whether it's kids or adults, the way you go through it, and that might differ because of your age or where you are at. So the short answer to that is I didn't call out breast cancer in particular for kids. Just so you know, there's also breast cancer in men as well. So they're different types. So this is not a medical book to kind of diagnose or to dissect different types of cancers and how they occur and where they occur. But it's just something about if this happens, what do you need to do? How do you need to some of the mechanisms that you can employ to cope through that. Now, you talked about, for children, again, my own story, and one of the things that I just keep emphasizing is that make sure you understand what's going on and make sure that you are empowered, because most of the time, like you said, if something happens and people that, doctors, for me, for example, my doctor was like, oh, let's wait another 6 months or a year and let's get back and see what's happening. And this is even in developed country. And I had to say, no, I wanna get a second opinion, a third opinion, a fourth opinion, if that's the case. So that's what I just tell people is if you're not sure about something, if you're confused, if something looks not normal, talk to someone, talk to a doctor.
Let me get a few more questions for you.
Right.
All right, so you spoke about faith, and sometimes the biggest challenge when it comes to seeking help for things like a cancer diagnosis is the faith part, because people would then want to focus on faith as the solution and disregard the medical sector because they feel like this is expensive, I trust God, God would do it, He does miracles. How did you balance faith, and how would you advise faith on your journey?
Thanks for that question. Even the Bible says wisdom is profitable to direct. And walking in faith does not mean you have to be stupid, At least know what you are fighting and know what you are up against. And so for me, yes, there is the faith aspect. I believe in God. I'm a person of faith. I believe in God, but you need to understand, even if you have to go to God, you need to understand what you're taking to God. It's not living in denial. And that's where the balance is. A lot of people live in denial and they say, oh yeah, I don't have it. I don't have it. Yes, you have it. You acknowledge it, and then you take it to God and say, hey, God, this is what's going on with me, and I need you to intervene and help. But now saying that, you're living in that denial, I think it's just being stupid, in my opinion. Right. And so that is how I balanced it. And I'll give you a case study here. I know someone who, when I was going through my journey, and the treatment is very brutal, especially if you're going through chemo. I know it's very brutal. And at some point, someone said, oh, I've heard about, how you can use plant-based diet, how you can eat all these things and, drink this, drink that, and you don't need to go through this treatment and you'll be fine. And I actually was at a point where I spoke to my doctors and I said, okay, maybe I should do that because it's easier. And one of the things my doctor said to me that really was a turnaround for me, said, I'm not disputing that these things work. I don't know whether it works or not. But one thing I will not be able to ascertain, Ola, is that I won't be able to measure the effectiveness from a scientific basis. And because of that, it says to me, do you want to gamble with your life? Because it's a gamble. And that really sank in me. And I'm like, why do I want to gamble with my life? Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? And that's what I tell people is that faith is not in denial of what exists. Even when we look at the story of Abraham, the Bible says he considered the deadness of his own body and his wife. So he knew what he was up against. But being in denial and then I think it's just recklessness. And it's a way that it just means you're gambling with your life. And I don't think that's what wants us to do.
We have to wrap up with you, Ola, but any final words? Because I know this book, what do you expect readers of your book to get when they read it?
Well, what I bring is a story of hope, and to let people know that regardless of, it's not only about a cancer story, it's about a story of anything that makes you uneasy, anything that makes you at a dis-ease, anything that puts you in a situation, whether it's financial situation, marital situation, health situation, there is hope for you and you can be rescued out of that situation. And that's what my book is about. And that's why I didn't even get to the story until the chapter 11 or 12 of the book. So I just want people to know that regardless of what you're going through in life, there is hope for you. You can come out of it, and your perspective and determines how you're going to get out of it, whether you're looking at your cup half full or half empty. But I encourage you to look at your cup.
Thank you very much. We've been speaking with a cancer survivor, Abimbola Ifido. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much.
That's all we can take on today's show. Hope you learned a few things as we have. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.